but people in general, Christian in general, take a stand for their faith. And I read the story a few times, and I read it again. And this is the Bible's boring, but this story exciting. This is exciting. And what's so amazing to me about the story is how they respond to the king. You know, imagine that you're the prime minister, and those in power will call you to that. And you will have to say to them respectfully. So, no, we didn't mean no disrespect. Respectfully. We're not going to disrespect the king and, call him name, but respectfully, sir. Somehow, we can't do that. We have a lot of yes men today. Hello? We have a lot of yes men today, and you see them all the time going behind and, behind and far down the side. A lot of yes men. And people like to surround themselves, yes men. For some reason, because when you have a yes man, everything is okay. They're not going to challenge you. They're not going to say, brother, I don't think what you did was right. They're just going out with this flow. And boy, we have a lot of yes men. And when I run into them, I say, Lord have mercy on you guys. No convictions. No conviction, no principle, they just go along with the flow. But this morning we learn about three different men who had conviction to go not yes men, even though they were assigned to the king. It doesn't mean because you're assigned to the prime minister you have to be a yes man. But somehow, boy, I tell you, we have them because somehow we feel as though if you go against what they say, my job is in jeopardy. I don't get chopped. I don't be in a chopping block. And I can't afford to say nothing. And I said, as I read the story, boy, I felt so excited because, their time when I'm gone into meeting and they will call and say, Pastor, we need you to pray so and so and pray. And I said, I said, nobody control how I pray. All right, so if you ask me to pray, I don't like on prayers. I ask the Lord to guide me. And so after I pray and you feel offended, that has nothing to do with me. So make sure you understand what you're getting into. And so I used to be on the list for prayers. I'm off the list now. And so ever so often, a member, somebody from India might come to church and they might hear. So I said, call so and so. And last time they called for me, because they came to church and one of them said, let's call Pastor Richard. We want to pray for us. I said, brother, remember, be careful. You call me to pray, because I can't pray according to how you want me to pray. I have to pray based on how God needed me to pray. So if you're not ready for that, please don't make me come. I'm not fazed by the faces who are in front of me. I'm not fazed by that. So make sure you understand what I'm saying. And so they called me to marry after, and then I prayed, and I guess I didn't offend anybody. I was, very clear. I said, if you could stay up here, I don't have a prayer with love. I don't believe in that. I believe that God will give me words to speak, to pray over a particular area. And so this morning, I'm happy to join with the young people as we try to encourage them in a time where the world is pulling for them, especially our young men. The world is really, really pulling them. And I always remember Brother Donnie, and Brother Keanu reminded me of that this morning while we had a session. Brother Donnie always said, he never had peer pressure. He don't know what they're talking about, even when he was a youth. He said, as a young man, that he never had no peer pressure. I was like, okay. And just this morning, I was talking to Keanu, and he said, Pastor, I never had that kind of desire to do those kind of things, to smoke weed. And he said, that was never in me. So he tells me that there's still young people who are choosing right. They're still doing right. There's still some young men who don't feel they have to go along with the tide. There are those who are still swimming upstream and doing the right thing. I applaud them because I know for most it's not easy. It's not easy to stand up. It's not easy. One young girl was, in trouble with her mother, and the mother said to her, look, go sit in the corner, and I'm going to address you when I'm ready. And a few minutes later, she went to the young girl and said, I told her to sit. She said, well, I'm sitting. As I said, Mom, a matter of fact, I'm sitting on the outside, but inside, I'm standing up. So you decide what you're going to do. Because inside, I'm standing up. It's just like being in prison and still being free. Because it's of the mind. It's of the mind. And so this morning, I want to encourage you, as we look at our theme, developing the courage to stand. You realize that developing, it don't happen by happenstance, it don't happen by chance. And so by way of introduction, and then we'll pray, and then we'll get into the message this morning. The world, we know, is constantly pressuring people to compromise their conviction. I wonder why is that? It's amazing when you take a stand for truth. It's almost like everybody against you, like you did something wrong. You realize that? If you stand up for something that is right, people against you, like you did something wrong. And I said, well, brother, I haven't done anything wrong. I stand up based on truth. What have I done wrong? What? School, in relationships, and even within society, there are moments when standing for what is right comes at a cost. I told you about this before. There are a lot of people in the talk about standing up. But when the time comes for them to stand, you might be alone. You might be alone. I'm telling you by experience. There are a lot of folks in the talk. But when it comes to walking that talk, you might be alone. So be careful and be ready to stand. But you better be ready also to stand alone. Shadrach in the book of Daniel, Meshach and Abednego teach us that courage is not the absence of fear. We heard that this morning. It is choosing faithfulness despite of the consequences. Choosing right. Even when it's going to cost me, even when it means there are consequences to me, still choose to do right. In verses 17 and 18, quite interesting. I just want to make a quick reference there to 18 and 19. And then we're going to jump right into the meaning of the month. Daniel chapter 3, verse 17. Let's go down to verse 16. Now Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego answered and said to the king, O King Nebuchadnezzar. You see, no disrespect at all. We are not careful to answer thee in this manner. In other words, King, with all due respect. King, respectful. We don't really care to answer you in this manner. If it be so, our God, who we serve, is able to deliver us from the burning fiery furnace. And he will deliver us out of thy hand, O king. But hear the kicker. But if not, king, I just want you to know, even if he chooses not to, it's okay. But I want it to be clear, king, that we will not choose not, because this conviction don't happen overnight. Whether I'm going to lose some friends or not, I want you to know. Whether or not he's going to cut me tomorrow, I want you to know. Whether he chooses to deliver me or not, king, make this cement in your mind that we are not going to worship that golden image you set up. You can imagine how he boiled on the inside. Pride. Remember after the Lord had to bring him out and give him grass to eat? Because he was out of order. And his nails started to go along like animals. And that's what pride does. Pastor Wayne was correct when he said there are people, the yes men, who are around you. They have evil intention for others, especially those who believe in truth. And so you could be a part of the party and the contingency. And because you believe different from them, they're going to find ways. And thank you, Sister Thomas. They're going to find ways to plot behind the scene. Story of Esther is the next one. They're going to find ways to plot because you believe in truth. And your truth convicts them. Well, that's amazing, isn't it? You know what I said? Well, I can't stand that man. You haven't done nothing wrong with him. Can't stand him. Why? Because he believes in truth. And when he's the only one, when everybody's saying yes, he said, no, you're wrong. He said, we need to get rid of it. So, Prime Minister, you realize anytime we have a vote, he votes against you? Man, we need to come up with a plan. But God don't sleep in him. I tell folks so all the time, go ahead, plan. Because God don't sleep when God's eyes are wide open, and sometimes you need to remind them. So let me tell you something. You might be plotting, but God don't sleep. I just want to remind you because sometimes we look like we just forget. I want to remind you that God's eyes run through and through. He's paying attention. So go ahead and plot. May God help us this morning. Father, into your hand we commit this time with you. Lord, I ask that you would help all of us to develop the courage to stand. Especially in the evil day in which we live, he said, having done all, Paul said, stand. Help us to stand for truth. Help us to stand for that which is right, even when everyone is against us. Because one with God is the majority. God will be on our side. Even when it costs us, help us to take a stand. So bless our time together, Lord. May, Lord, it be a time of refreshing. Encouragement for us as believers today. Have your way in and through the message. Careful to give you the praise. In Jesus' name. I'm encouraged just listening to this. because I was called into a mission recently. And being a part of the management staff, I have a different standard as far as dress code. And so I was called into the meeting and they asked my opinion, a session. So I let them get me in trouble. I said, and I said, to be honest with you, some of those dress codes, some of your teachers are too short. Who tell me say that? He said they're not going short, but they left a lot to be desired. Can you imagine going into a classroom and you have on a dress just below your bum and the wind is blowing and students there, I said something is wrong with that. They said no. Means nothing wrong with it. I said, you see why I like to get me in trouble? Because we have different standards. That's not normal. I remember the days, I wasn't there, but I was told. I shouldn't say I remember, but I was told that there were times when teachers had to dress modest. Not so anymore. If you see the kind of outfits that they wear. No conviction and morality. But when you stand up and say something, you become the enemy. I say, hey man, you don't have to believe what I believe, but you ask my opinion. And so I'm going to tell you. And after that, whoever the teachers were, I know who they were, let them talk to me. So I created enemies just by giving my opinion. Oh, you think you're better than everybody else? Who gave you authority to make standards down here? And the conversation continued. But Pastor, don't have time for that. I got work to do. They could pick up on that. But I'm just showing you where we are today. People don't want truth enough. People don't want to hear truth. Because truth does bring conviction. And nobody wants to be convicted. And so let's look at that. Courage begins with conviction. My friend, if you don't have no conviction, you wouldn't have the courage to stand. Conviction is what holds us, not what we hold. It's not a preference. This is something that God, you get from God. And so when we say, oh, conviction, to knowing God's will, remembering God's faithfulness, and less likely these kind of pressures of life. So when you have godly convictions, my friend, you're not going to have a lot of friends. Ever. I wonder why. Because you always want to talk about God. I don't want to talk about the World Cup. You want to talk about God. And you want to talk about Music Fest. And they want to talk about how good God has been. And how God has been blessing them. And how God has been great in their life. And you want to talk about something else. But courage begins with conviction. If you don't have the conviction, I have to say you're jelly back. What are you going to stand on? You have no conviction. And so that's why it's easy to bring along yes men in your cabinet. Because they have no conviction. It's easy to come up with a plan and say, you know what, age for, consent sexually, we're gonna keep it at 16. And everybody in there. Amen, brother. Let's keep it at 16. No conviction. Do you stand up now and say, hey, no, I believe that's wrong. Do you have an age of consent at 16? They're not adults yet. We have a lot of men who are in power who benefits from that. But the day you stand up and say, no, that's wrong, that's catch up to anything that's winning, you're going to be the enemy of the state. Enemy of the state. Because there is no conviction. There are men who benefit from that. And so we have children. Children. It's okay for you to have sex at 16 with big grown men. And there's nothing wrong with it. But then when you get pregnant, you can't go to the doctor by yourself. When something happens to you, you can't go doctor, you can't do anything by yourself. What have sex? That makes sense? How could that be right? I'm putting yes. I'm putting them to God. I said, it's wrong. It's wrong. So they're not going to be popular, friend, amongst them because I'm going to call it black and white. I said, you justify that for me. If you're going to allow that to be the case, make them adults at 16. Allow them to go by the doctor by themselves. Allow them to have a job and the social security, everything else. Only sex they can have. That make any sense. That's what I'm talking about. No convictions. And so we have a lot of young girls who are raped, in my opinion, at that age by grown men. The law says okay. And so they continue. And no one up to this point they will stand up and say, no, something is wrong with that. No conviction. Lord help us. And then we say we're a Christian nation. Courage begins with conviction, but courage, young people and adults, is built before crisis. You see, this courage don't happen when crisis comes. This is what we call the preparation before the storm. It doesn't stop the storm from coming, because even when we prepare, the storm still comes. It puts us in a better position to face the storm, because we're going to make up our minds. This happened before the crisis. And so many, when they find themselves in crisis, they don't know how to respond, because they think that this courage happened in crisis. This is built in before. You already decided what you're going to do. They decide when they make the decree. They already decided in their mind that they're not going to do this. So when they set it up, it was okay. It didn't stop them from setting it up. But this courage is built before crisis. We have to make up our minds before it happens. We have to determine our mind and be resolute whether we're going to serve, we're going to take a stand, or we're not going to take a stand. Because what happens when crisis comes, you find people jumping all over the place, jumping ship. Depends on which ship on fire. We jump off this one, jump on the next ship. And it happens all the time. People, when you're careful when you go with them, because when you're on the boat with them, they have a little life dinghy on the side. You have to be careful, because they say, boy, something happened. Watching the dinghy all the time, always make sure, fishermen, have a dinghy on the side. They're not all in. They're just saying, well, let me go on just in case. Let's start the dinghy on the side. We jump the dinghy in. You think I stay in the ship in trouble? It's built in. And there are those who say, brother, I ain't going nowhere. We're gonna be in the water together. When the water come in, you give me a bucket and you take a bucket. And we're gonna build it together. Courage is built in before crisis. These young men did not suddenly become courageous at the furnace. They had already determined to honor God. And when we determine to honor God, my friend, whether before Parliament or before the Pope or the priest, it makes no difference. Our job is to still honor God. Don't be afraid of their faces. Small acts of obedience prepare us for bigger tests. Daily prayer, devotional, spiritual strength, consistent. Obedience builds conviction. Private faith prepare us for public challenges. And so this is built before the crisis. Here we talk about peer pressure. And when I hear that, it comes up so often. It's almost like it happens. And I say, well, who are your peers, friend? Are your peers pressuring you to do it? Right or wrong? But if you have peers who are pressuring you to do wrong, you have the wrong peers. It's as simple as I am. But we just complicate it. You know why? Because we want to fit in. We want to be a part of them. For the life of me, meetings after meetings, parents will say to their children, I tell you to keep from it. Stay away from them because they're getting you in trouble. Stay away from them. Look now, look here. You up here and they're doing the lessons and you up here all by yourself. Stay away from them. They're getting you in trouble. You have the wrong peers. Next week, peers back up there. And the same thing. I say it's not for the lack of wanting and helping and trying to encourage them. They want to fit in and the value, they're fitting more than what parents are saying. Hello? Here's where we are today. You know, I thank the Lord. I know I'm not perfect, but I always want a son. I said that many times, that the Lord must know why. He could see that he probably wouldn't have lived if he be like that. Somebody might have died in the process. I know it's not going to be. Just can't imagine having a son, a daughter, who, you know, for whatever reason, followed that path. I just can't picture it. That's why it's so difficult for me to relate to that. Because in my circle, it's just different. You know? I picture it all the time. I say, Lord, you know best. You know best. Always wants. God, to sit up with young men today. Sit up young men who are doing right. Have young men who have good jobs and have a good head on the shoulder who are serving God. Sit up those. So there is hope. And so quickly, courage begins with conviction. Courage is built before crisis. A number three, courage believes in obedience over convenience. Courage chooses obedience over convenience. In other words, courage don't have room for convenience. You know what I said? But if not, okay, it's okay. But if not, we're not gonna compromise. But if not, you're still not gonna bow. No room for compromise. These words reveal mature faith. Their obedience did not depend on receiving a miracle. True courage. I will obey whether I am promoted or overlooked. You know, on the job, especially, there are a lot of folks who plan because they want to be promoted before you and want to do all kind of things. I'm telling you, they always have those who, anywhere God places you as a believer, you're going to have the enemy in there. Always have the enemy. And the enemy job is to make sure that these things don't happen. That you're not promoted, that you're always overlooked. And you might feel a little way, say, well, Lord, you know, I've been waiting for this promotion for all the time. And, you know, is it going to come? I will obey whether life is easy or not. Convenience. I will obey whether God changes my circumstances or strengthen me through them. Here's one of the biggest challenges that I believe we will face in these times. When our circumstances change. Seems like we forget who God is. I've seen it over the years, and more so this year like never before. You know, we all are susceptible to everything else that the world has out there. We get sick, we lose our jobs. It's not because you're a Christian. It happens to us. But what happens when our circumstances change? Do we change as well? Do we change? And do we still believe that the God who we serve is able? Our faith is tested, like Job. And Job said, don't sleep. He talked about faith. He said, Lord, I can determine the end from the beginning. But Lord, in spite of, help me to trust. Lord, I cannot see the end. I cannot see. Right now I'm at a loss. The question has come, why? Why, Lord, why? I don't know. But I want to be able to say, Lord, even when I don't understand, I give you trust. Because the God who I serve He knows the beginning and he knows the end. And nothing happens to me by mistake. As a matter of fact, unless God permits it. But I don't want to get bent out of shape when things happen and behave like the unsaved. Like I don't know who God is. Because same God in the mountaintop, same God in the valley. And what God would have done in the past, he's able to do again. That's the God I see. Courage believes in obedience. But number 4, as I wind up, courage, young people and all alike, not to refuse to compromise. In other words, they have room to compromise. It's not saying doesn't extend grace. The story was told of a general who was invited to King's Palace, and while he was there, he was pretty much getting older and fought many battles. And while he was there, the leader began to make jokes about God. And everybody was laughing, and General stood up by himself and said, seemed like he took a deep breath, because he knew what he was about to say and what he might face. He said, I stood here and I listened to the jokes that they make about my God. And I stand here and I will say to you that the God who I serve is no one to joke about. You know what? He's the reason why I'm alive this morning. And he's the reason why you are alive. So the jokes you're making, they are not funny. You can imagine how pale the face could be after that. Who's going to stand up when jokes are made about your God? Who's going to stand up when there's a laughter and God becomes a mockery? You're going to stay and enjoy the jokes like everybody else? Because there's some folks who are the dragon that changes, chameleon dragon, that blends in. That when jokes are over here, nasty jokes, we laugh at them. And then we come to church, and then we go back over in the car and laugh at the nasty jokes. And nobody say, hey, you know, I remember specifically talking to a teacher some time ago. Teachers come for counsel. And she used the Lord name in vain. And I corrected her. She was very offended. Said, well, only you alone are God. I said, no, man. I said, I wasn't disrespectful. I just said that it's not wise to use the Lord name like that. That's not wise. You know, don't use it as a curse word. It's not wise. I'm not telling you it's up to you. I'm just telling you it's not wise. Only you alone are God. These are some of the things that you have to deal with when you make a stand. So you have to be ready. Because they're not going to embrace you and hug you and say, oh, I just can't wait for you to do that. No, they're going to be very offensive and aggressive. In the Caribbean, you know, that somewhere they had a pride problem. Somewhere in the Caribbean, Guyana. And the leader had the mic. I said, Lord help me. He said, they're trying to stop us, but they can't because we're part of God's army. They can't stop us. Why? Because we're part of God's army. Face like that. And I smile. I said, oh, boy, we're getting there. We're getting there. We don't have quite for me to say you just you don't quite for me. And you see the colors, you see the colors, you see those. And you know what I'm gonna say? You have churches in it too. Church is gonna be there. Believe in me, I can really see some of them in there. But I can justify it. So, well, you know, we have to love everybody, class. We can't, you know, segregate ourselves. I mean, we have to love everybody, class. And We are loving everybody. We don't love your behavior and your lifestyle. We don't love. We have a problem with you, brother. It's your lifestyle. You're cool, but you're practicing something different. So courage has learned to refuse compromise, no rule. We love people, but we don't love their lifestyle. We'll not serve your God, King. Sorry. King, I know you're the boss, but I have a bigger boss than you. You might be in charge here, but he's in charge of you and me. Jesus. I have someone who has to report to King that is higher than you. Says no. In other words, he's above you. I know you feel like you're bigger than everybody else. Pride. And that's why God had to, when he saw Belshazzar with it, writing on the wall, and he couldn't interpret it. When the interpretation comes in other sense, you'll be weighing the balance. Or can you imagine being on a scale? Be weighing the balance, brother. And for one, refuse to compromise. The standards, your conviction. When the pressure to conform was intense, some people, the pressure to conform can be intense sometimes. They can say, come with us, man, and have a great time. We're going to have fun. Boring Christian, you ain't have nothing to do. Christian life is so boring. Come join us. The pressure to conform can be intense. You say, brother, take a little. Come on. Really weak or something? Kind of weak fellas. Come on, man. Come on. Take a point. You wanted to prove a point. Take a point, and the point you never the same after the point. And the same guys who give you the point laughing at you now. You become the laughing stock. The pressure to conform. Intense. I've known young people who conform, and in the first attempt, they got pregnant. The first attempt, they got the disease. Everyone else doing it, no friend. That's the trick of the enemy. It might appear that way. Everybody has made the fans half it on the bomb basket. Everybody has got a ear plant and breathe on them. Everybody got a hearing. Fast, all the problem is this. You have to take it easy, Pastor. Take it easy. You know, give the young people, you know, we live in a different time. Pastor, whoa, Pastor, whoa. Everybody doing it? One of the most powerful sight for me is to see young men just on the side smoking. And then they want to talk in your face. Hey, Pastor. I said, well, come on, man. You got better than that. You know you got it better than this. And you know what's the backlash to that? Some of our nice church girls like them. I wonder if you have to wear a mask when the dog is there. No, you're laughing. I wonder sometimes. Because the breath. No. Some of our nice church girls like them. Just this week, I was in conversation with a counselor, and I said, for the life of me, there's certain combination that I just can't have. Just don't make the sense. Attracted to them. The pressure to conform was intense because everyone else is following past. What am I supposed to do? Everyone else is doing past. What am I supposed to do? Plus, the king commanded it. That's double. Everybody doing it. Plus, the king commanded it. The punishment, Pastor, you see punishment for not doing it? I'm gonna lose my job. Watch that. Yet they refuse compromise. Believers today are called to resist moral compromise, peer pressure, peer projection, idolatry in all its form. You know, fear of rejection is big for young people because you want to be a part of it. You want to be able to talk when everybody else talking. So when I go to work and the conversation about music fest, think I will be left out. I want to be able to say I was there. When I go to school and I hear about the white sands, I want to be a part of the class and you think I will be there and I can't say anything. And people gonna laugh and say you can't even go anywhere. I want to be there. I thank God for young people today who find no pleasure in those things. God, the Bible says the pleasure of sin is only for a season. These are the people who come on the job, pass away this evening, the next morning. Look like they went to hell and back. They can't keep their eye on 2 minutes. Don't tell you about that guy. They say, come, let's have fun, man. Fun has a price. Fun has a price. How do you close? Courage brings out confidence. You know what it does? It inspires others. When we begin to take a stand, as it was mentioned this morning, other people see it and they're inspired, they're encouraged towards a stand. The faith of these 3 men became a testimony before the king and the nation. Sometimes God changed the situation because it could be the laughing stock today. And then because of God, He could change it as He did in this time. He might start out as a joke, but God has a way of working it for His good. And as a result of the stand that they took, Nebuchadnezzar said to them, from this day, this is the God you. After what God did, we have a choice anymore because they took a stand. When we stand up for God, others are encouraged. God's power is displayed. I receive the glory. Your courage may become someone else's reason to trust God because you took a stand. They realized that God was sovereign. You see that man stand with God? I want to have a God like that. I want to serve a God like that. He took a stand for his God. That's why many times you hear the conversation about those who worship on Sunday and those on Saturday. Because for some reason, those who worship on Saturday take a stand. Hello? They don't take a stand. But people go, so don't even assign. Hello? Don't call me brother. Call me Saturday. You got sports, you know me coming. So don't even bother asking. You know what they're doing? They're taking a stand for their God. That's what they believe. Now us now, we are all over the place. When you want to become brother, Sunday, 9 o'clock. Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But when we decide to take a stand for God, we talk about their work, we talk about your conviction and who God is. And when we hear people talking about our God in a derogatory manner, and we say, no, that's not the God I see. Taking a stand for God requires conviction. Courage. It don't happen overnight, church. Who are they who are going to be the Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Daniel. Because Daniel also had to face the same challenge. When Daniel used to open his window and pray 3 times a day, So, and come. And Daniel opened his window, whether they were seen or unseen. You could be blind and still see. And Daniel was convicted. He had conviction that this is what God wants. You can care that's what everybody wants. I just want to live. And boy, I tell you, when you decide to take a stand, you will know him. Because I'm telling you, you're not going to have many friends. Hello? And you ain't going to have to dismiss them. They're going to dismiss themselves. Because when they come to you, you're going to tell them the truth. And they're going to stop coming to you. Because they don't want to hear the truth. They said, Pastor, I have a situation here. Tell me what I think. I said, why? I like to warn them. Preference. You sure you want to tell the truth? You sure? I'm sure. Because of the situation. I said to him, brother, you were right. How, Pastor? How? I mean, you want to tell me? Why you doing it? Why you doing it? I said, you were wrong. I said, I'm picking the lady side. I said, no. I said, brother, you were wrong. And I have to call you. Are you wrong? Let me give you the situation you're at. But you were wrong. What do you expect me because I'm a man? I have to side with the man. But I have to side with truth. Truth is not a man. Whether you're wrong or not, truth is not a man. Truth is truth. And so if you're wrong and you're a man, I'll tell you wrong. If you're right, I'll say yes, you were right. It's somewhat situational. The greatest miracle in Daniel's week was not simply surviving the fire. It was that three men refused to bow before they even entered the furnace. The courage came from unwavering trust in God. Boy, they were convicted, they were convinced. The challenge for every believer is this. Will you stand before the fire comes? God, my friend, if you don't stand before the fire comes, when the fire comes, you don't stand. I'm telling you. Because this conviction comes before the fire. When the fire comes and you decide to stand there, you're going to melt. It's too late. Like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. May we be able to say, our God is able to deliver us. But even if he does not, we will still serve him. I said, Lord, in these moments that I will be able to say, Lord, even if you choose not to, may my convictions be enough to say I will still serve. That's the courage that honors God. Strengthen faith. Leave a lasting testimony. If you read the story behind the song, stand up for Jesus, you give me. The people write song, we don't need it. There's no history behind that. They had a dream, and they write a song based on the dream. But most of the songs in the hymn came from a testimony. And it has meaning to it. So when you sing it, it's like, wow. I have decided to follow Jesus. There's meaning to it. Because you have to decide before you follow him. I will follow Jesus. Come on. May God help us all. I mean, God be you. That in those moments, our faith is being tested. When we feel like we want to compromise, may our conviction hold us. And said respectfully, O King, even if you take a one or two, even if the life is at stake, Lord help me, like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, to stand up and believe that God is more than enough. to sin. That's all that's with us. Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for speaking to me. Thank you, Lord, for the encouragement. Just reading the story, my heart is stirred and encouraged. Because, Lord, we all have to face this one day. We all have to take a stand. On the job, at school, at home, in the community, when we are confronted. Lord, I pray that we will not compromise. That you will give us the conviction to stand. To take a stand for you, Lord, even when it costs us something. Strengthen your people, Lord, today based on your word. Help them to see when we take a stand for God, God take a stand for us. Oh God, I pray that our hearts will be encouraged. You're here today, there's a pastor. Pray for me that I'll take a stand. Lord, help me not to wait until the fire comes, but I will take a stand today. Help me not to compromise my faith, my standards. But help me, Lord, to take a stand so I can show forth my God's words. Here this morning, God spoke to you. Maybe on your job, you failed to take a stand. Maybe in your community at home. Maybe on your job, wherever you may be, God bless you, might be wavering in your faith, not really sure. Your heart is being small. Say, Lord, help me. Give me boldness in the areas where I'm weak, in the areas, Lord, where I'm broken down, that you will help me to take a stand. Help me to stand. Lord, take full control of the invitation today. Speak to our hearts, even during that time. May you give us the conviction and boldness to stand for you. In Jesus' name. If you're able to stand to your feet, as the piano begins to play, I want to encourage you this morning. We serve a great God, amen? And even when we can, our God can. God knows our hearts, and He knows where we are with Him. And if you're willing, God will help you to stand. Let's stand to our feet. And if God spoke to you, my friend, the altar is open. You do business with God this morning. Do business with God. May God give us the courage to stand, even when the pressure is on, even when we are surrounded by all the bosses and the prime minister and everybody else that will take a stand. May God help us today. In Jesus' name.